Today we're going to be taking a look at Scratch. Scratch is a program made by MIT that allows users to code games, animations, videos, and much more using a block-based environment. So what that means is, instead of having to type out code like you would do in other languages like Python, Java, and C, you can use pre-made blocks of code and connect those in different sequences to do different actions. Scratch is divided up into 3 separate sections. The section on the left-hand side is the code section. So this is where all the different blocks of code are located. And it's nice, they're color-coded and broken down into different sections. So if I wanted my game to have some type of motion involved, I can look under the blue motion tab. And then if I want my game to have sounds, I can jump down to the sound tab here. And I can either scroll through the menu to find that, or I can simply click on the sound bubble and it'll bring me to that section of the code blocks. In the middle of the screen, this is where we're going to be taking code blocks from the left-hand side and dragging them onto this blank area over here. So I can take something like this sound block over here, drag it from my code menu, and then drop it over here onto my workspace. After I've taken a few of these blocks and put them together over here to make a code, I can look over to the right-hand side, and this is where the output of my code will be located. So if I want to run my code, depending on what the event is, I can either press the green flag or another trigger like maybe a key press on the keyboard, and then whatever my code does, it'll show up in this little window right over here. If I want to see my code in a bigger window, I can go up here to the top right hand corner and click on this button right here, and this will bring the window into full screen mode so that all you're seeing is just the output of your code. Also, on the right hand side of the screen, you have different options for customizing the way your game looks. Down here, you can add different sprites or characters into the game, and to do that, all you have to do is click on the cat icon, and it brings up a library with a bunch of different pre-made sprites. If you want to try and make your own character, you also have that option. To do that, you would hover your mouse over the cat icon and then select the paintbrush. Here it'll open up a basic paint software where you can customize and create your own character. You can also select different backgrounds for your game. To do that, right next to the cat icon for selecting sprites is the background selector. You can click on this one, and just like before, it'll open up a library of all the different backgrounds that are available. If you would like to try to make your own background, just like for making your own character, you would hover over this icon here and then select the paintbrush. When I opened up the paint menu to create a new sprite, it created a blank sprite right here, and since we're not going to be using that, the way you can delete a sprite is just clicking on the X button that appears right over the icon. Right above the sprite icon, we have a lot of different information about the sprite. We have the sprite's name, its X and Y position, whether it's being shown on the screen or invisible, also its size and its direction. If you'd like to change the name of your sprite, which I would recommend if you're going to have a lot of sprites just so you can keep them straight, all you have to do is click in this bubble right here, delete the previous text, and then type in whatever name you want to. So let's just call this one Cat. And then we'll take a look at some of these other options later on, but for now let's just go ahead and jump in and write a few pieces of code and see how this works. So to start with, I'm just going to get rid of this piece of code here. And whenever you're coding in Scratch, it's divided up into 2 main categories: events and actions. So whenever you want to start writing a piece of code, you need to choose an event that'll trigger the code. If we go down under the events tab here, we can see all the different options for events we have. One of the most popular ones is the when green flag clicked, the very first one up here. And this code is triggered whenever the green flag up here is clicked. So if I click this right now, it's not going to do anything because I don't have any code down below here. Let's go ahead and fix that and add a piece of code right under this event. So let's go ahead and do something simple. So let's look under the motion tab, and we'll just select the very first one that says move 10 steps. So what you can do is just click and drag it from the left hand side, and then once you get close to the other block, it'll show up a gray background. Once that appears, you can just simply let go, and then it snaps into place. Now what our code is going to do is whenever the green flag is clicked, the cat is going to move 10 steps. So let's go ahead and try this out. So I'm going to trigger my event by clicking the green flag. And then I see every time I click the green flag, my cat moves 10 steps to the right. Okay, there's a lot we can do with just these two pieces of code. So let's say instead of moving to the right, I want my cat to move to the left. I can change the options for the blocks. So in this move 10 steps block, I can change this positive 10 to a negative 10. And then I'm going to click the green flag again and see the new results. And now I see I have a cat that's moving to the left. Okay, let's say I want to make them move a further distance. So instead of minus 10 steps, let's do minus 100 steps and see what happens. So now I see every time I click the cat, he moves a much larger distance. Let's go ahead and change it to positive 100 and we'll see this movement to the right again. Okay, every time I click it, he moves a pretty big distance to the right. Let's go ahead and add a few more blocks to this. So in addition to moving 100 steps, let's also have the cat turn 15 degrees to the right. I'm going to recenter my cat so I can go over here and just click on him and move him to whatever part of the screen I like. So I'm just going to move him back to the center. And I'm also going to change this 100 back to a 10. The way this code is going to run, whenever I click the green flag, it'll run the first one. After it completes the first action, then it goes down to the second action. So it's going to move 10 steps to the right and then turn 15 degrees to the right. So go ahead and click on the green flag and I see that it's moving and also rotating at the same time. And I don't have to have the same event, so if I would like to have this happen with a different event, like let's say I don't want it to happen with the green flag clicked, but instead I want to just be able to click on my spacebar on the keyboard, I can do that. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this event for now, so I'm going to drag it back into the code menu. And I'm going to go back to the events tab. And some of the other events that we have a space key pressed, which is what I'm going to use in just a second. But I also have the option of when the sprite is clicked, so whenever I click on the cat, I can have it do something. I can make things happen when different backgrounds appear. So if I have a couple of different backgrounds, whenever it switches, I can have something happen. I can use the microphone, so when it picks up a certain volume level, I can have code run. I can also do broadcasts, which we'll get into a little bit later, but basically what that is I can send out a message in my code, and then in other sprites or other objects, I can have something that says when I receive this message that I broadcasted earlier, I can run my code. So let's go ahead and just grab the spacebar for now, so when space key is pressed. And this one, if I don't want space key, I can click on the little drop down menu, and I have a bunch of different options that I can choose from. For now, let's just keep it a space key though. So now instead of clicking the green flag to run my code, I can click the spacebar on the keyboard. So let's go ahead and try that. So every time I press the space key, it runs the code just like it did before with the green flag. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do, let's go ahead and add another sprite into our game. So I'm going to go down and just select one from the pre-made menu. So I'm going to click on the cat icon. Once the menu appears, let's go ahead and look through for another character. And this time I'm going to choose a crab. I'm going to click and drag the crab to another part of the screen. And I noticed that my code disappeared. The reason for that is in Scratch, for each character, the code is stored under that character. So if I make a new character or select a new character, it gives me a blank screen where I can write different code for this character. So that's just something to remember whenever you add a new sprite and you see that your code disappeared. You didn't do anything wrong. The code for each character is stored under that character. So if you switch between the two, you'll notice that the code disappears, but that's not a problem. Just remember that you write code for each character separately. So I can have this crab do something different. So let's go over to the events menu and we'll select a different event. This time we'll do when this sprite is clicked. And let's go ahead and this time instead of motion, let's go under the looks tab. And let's change its color. So I'm going to choose change color effect by 25. And for my crab, the code is triggered, or the event is triggered whenever I click on the crab. And for the cat, just like before, I see that it is the space key. So let's go ahead and try running the code for the crab. So if I click on the crab, I can see that it changes colors. and I can click on the spacebar at the same time and have the cat run its code. Before we end off with this video, I would like to show you a couple other useful features. So if you're done programming your game and you want to save the game, you can go up to File, and then Save to your computer. And this will open up the Save dialog where you can type in a name and save it to a file. If you're working on the online Scratch, then it'll just save to your account. You also have up here Tutorials. If you click on this, then they have a lot of pre-made games that you can go through, and it has a step-by-step guide on how you can make it. So if you're just starting out, this might be a good spot to start. You can click on one that looks interesting, and it'll teach you how to make that particular game, animation, or video. Okay, there's so much more we can do with Scratch, and we'll be getting into those in the later videos. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next one.